today comes from fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are formed from the remains of long-dead plants and animals. Buried over the course of hundreds of millions of years, these carbon-based deposits have been converted by heat and pressure over time into combustible substances like crude oil, coal, and natural gas. So far, fossil fuels have been abundant and easily procured. Unfortunately, they are not renewable. At current rates, the world uses fossil fuels 100,000 times faster than they can form. Even when properly extracted and handled, fossil fuels take a toll on the atmosphere. The combustion processes release many pollutants. Our dependence on oil cannot go on for much longer. Many sources for alternative energy exist, including electricity, hydrogen, biodiesel, and what will be discussed now, ethanol. So what exactly is ethanol? Ethanol is an alcohol-based fuel made by fermenting and distilling crops that have been broken down into simple sugars. In the United States, ethanol is generally made from starch crops such as corn or sorghum. Now there are two techniques to create ethanol, the dry milling and the wet milling technique. In the dry milling process, the corn or grain is ground into flour, which is called meal. This is processed without separating out the various component parts of the grain. The meal is mixed with water to form mash, and enzymes are added to the mash to convert the starch to simple sugar. The mixture is processed in a high-temperature cooker to reduce bacteria levels, and then cooled and transferred to fermenters where yeast is added, and the conversion of sugar to ethanol and carbon dioxide begins. The resulting beer is blended with about 5% natural gasoline to render it undrinkable. In the wet milling process, the grain is soaked or steeped in water and dilute sulfuric acid for 1 to 2 days. This allows the grain to separate into its component parts. After steeping, the corn mixture is processed through a series of grinders to separate the corn germ. The corn oil is extracted from the germ. The remaining fiber, gluten, and starch components are further separated. The starch and any remaining water from the mash can then be fermented into ethanol. The fermentation process is very similar to the dry mill process. Now there is always the debate that corn used for ethanol can be used as food instead. Another way to look at it is that it takes 450 pounds of corn to make enough ethanol to fill a 25-gallon gas tank. 450 pounds of corn supplies enough calories to feed one person for one whole year. The USDA projects that in 2010, the ethanol industry will consume over 2.5 billion bushels of corn. A bushel weighing 56 pounds, 2.5 billion bushels of corn could supply enough calories to feed nearly 325 million people for an entire year. So are there other alternatives to corn for making ethanol? Well, sugarcane is the main alternative. It is used in South America, primarily Brazil, and 6 times more economical than corn. In growing sugarcane, however, the burning of cane fields produces mass amounts of greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, the environmental conditions in the United States are not favorable to growing sugarcane. So to provide a quick summary about ethanol, it has many advantages. It reduces toxic emissions. It is widely available and easy to adapt to existing car engines. It decreases the nation's energy dependence on foreign sources, and it creates investment within the United States. On the other hand, ethanol gives 20% less fuel economy than gasoline, and it costs about $1.75 to produce, compared with about 95 cents to produce a gallon of gasoline. It cannot be transported using pipelines because it picks up water and other impurities. To clear the myth that ethanol will solve all of our nation's energy problems, consider this. If all the automobiles in the United States were fueled with 100% ethanol, a total of about 97% of U.S. land area would be needed to grow the corn required. The prospect of ethanol does have a promising future. Today, corn-based ethanol comes from corn kernels, but one of the more exciting ethanol ideas uses cellulosic ethanol. Society is constantly developing more and more impressive technology. If the power of ethanol is harnessed, who knows where it can take us?